Please note that I had to spell sadism as sadism for it to be pronounced correctly. Chapter 3. The Dark Tetrad and My Experience. My experiences stem from growing up in a narcissistic household, where I have long played the role of the scapegoat within this family dynamic. Being a scapegoat leaves deep psychological scars that often carry into adulthood. A scapegoat is someone who is blamed for the wrongdoings, mistakes, or faults of others, typically for the sake of convenience. While this definition may oversimplify the concept, it carries a darker implication. To fully understand the Dark Tetrad, I will break it down using research and draw upon my own experiences as a case study. This case study involves 9 individuals I observed over the course of 20 years, and I can confirm that they exhibit all the markers outlined by the PCLR, which is an index used to diagnose psychopathy. First, let's explore the Dark Tetrad based on my experiences, and then I will elaborate on those experiences and the lessons we can learn from them. Machiavellianism refers to a tendency to see people as means to an end. Many psychologists consider this a distinct personality type characterized by being sly, deceptive, distrustful, and manipulative. I believe Machiavellianism is present in all clinical narcissists and psychopaths, which I argue are essentially the same. I will explain why I hold this view, but first, let's examine why Machiavellianism should not be classified as a standalone trait. Individuals who exhibit Machiavellian traits often operate under a dog-eat-dog philosophy, a defining characteristic of the group I observed. To possess such qualities, one must lack empathy. A person devoid of empathy may be classified as a psychopath. Therefore, I contend that Machiavellianism should not be seen as an independent trait but rather as a characteristic embedded within clinical narcissists or psychopaths. It serves more as a philosophy that these individuals adopt than as a standalone trait. Sadism, defined as a tendency to enjoy inflicting pain or humiliation on others. In my view, sadism should not be classified as a singular trait either, as it is present in both clinical psychopaths and narcissists. If someone derives pleasure from hurting others, they must lack empathy, which aligns with the characteristics of both clinical narcissism and psychopathy. Therefore, sadism can be regarded as a tool used by narcissists or psychopaths to enhance their narcissistic supply. There is a certain gratification associated with collecting narcissistic supply, especially when it involves causing harm to others. Hence, sadism is integral to the nature of clinical narcissists and psychopaths. In my perspective, clinical narcissists and psychopaths are fundamentally the same. Narcissism is characterized by a sense of grandiosity, entitlement, and superiority, which can be divided into 2 groups, both of which lack empathy. Grandiose narcissism. This type is characterized by an inflated sense of self, aggression, dominance, and a need for admiration often manifested through outward displays of self-importance. Vulnerable narcissism. This form is associated with heightened emotional sensitivity, a defensive attitude, and underlying feelings of inadequacy. These may appear as insecurity and a need for validation, despite an outward appearance of confidence. Psychopathy, on the other hand, features a lack of empathy and remorse, alongside a tendency to exploit others. I reached these conclusions after closely observing the dynamics within a group over 20 years. This group can be classified as consisting of narcissists or psychopaths, as they exhibit all the symptoms and traits associated with the Dark Tetrad of personality. Research suggests that psychopaths are impulsive and aggressive. However, in my experience, they are extremely calculated in their approaches. Only after confronting the reality of their behavior was I able to see things for what they truly are. My understanding stems from immersing myself in gaining the necessary knowledge to comprehend my experiences with them. While it is true that we all possess some narcissistic traits, it's essential to recognize that we can change our behaviors. The benchmark for psychopathy is a lack of empathy and accountability. Those who lack empathy also lack remorse. Clinical narcissists exhibit a similar absence of empathy, which is closely tied to Machiavellianism. Sadism only becomes evident in the presence of a lack of empathy. The individuals in this group often present themselves as upstanding members of society. They attend parent-teacher meetings and hold stable jobs. However, when they target specific individuals, they can become extremely calculated, vindictive, and sadistic, contradicting the typical profile of psychopathy. Whether or not they act on these dark tendencies depends on their ability to evade consequences. This seems to set the benchmark for how far they will pursue their fantasies. From my understanding, they have fully accepted and taken delight in these behaviors. If we consider psychopaths to occupy the pinnacle of this spectrum, then all psychopaths are indeed narcissists. However, not all narcissists are psychopaths, as narcissism exists on a spectrum. I believe that if we were to clinically diagnose a narcissist, they would likely be classified as a psychopath because they exhibit all 4 traits of the dark tetrad. The only distinction I see between the two is the opportunity to escape the consequences of their behavior. If left unchecked and without challenges to their actions, narcissists become increasingly clinical over time, reinforcing their grandiose fantasies. One of the key delusions they operate under is the belief that if you allow them to mistreat you, then you deserve it. This perspective ignores the years of psychological abuse they have systematically planned and executed to lower our defenses and break our psyche, enabling them to attempt to take complete control. Some experts suggest that all psychopaths are born with specific brain or genetic markers that predispose them to psychopathy. I find this hard to accept, as it implies that not only the 9 individuals I observed but potentially an entire company's management must be born psychopaths. I believe that psychopathic traits are more significantly influenced by nurture and the current state of human consciousness, a topic we will explore further as we progress. While there are cases where individuals may be born with a predisposition to psychopathy, not everyone with such a predisposition becomes a psychopath. It largely depends on nurturing. From my experience growing up with certain individuals, they were not psychopaths. They showed affection for animals and demonstrated empathy. I interacted with them daily and witnessed their capacity for empathy. However, there came a point when everything began to change. To be continued.